Welcome to DC2B Revolution. I'm Noah Volz, and this is where we think big to live large. I'm so excited to be here today with Dr. Laurence Tham. He is the founder of Drive Your Practice, the co-host of the Wellness Guys podcast, the co-founder of the podcast production platform, The Wellness Couch, a renowned thought leader, and even a chiropractor. I mean, he's doing it all, so I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here, Dr. Laurence.
It's so good to see someone like yourself who is a student at at a chiropractic college doing something like what you're doing, because when I was back in the university days, there was nothing like this. And I'm encouraged to see someone like yourself to not wait until you have a degree to actually action on something. So I'm just proud of you, and I'm proud that people are actually taking action before they even graduate and not waiting that they have to get this degree before they start something. So awesome to you. Kudos to you, man.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a honor and a privilege to me to talk to people like you and talk to other chiropractors and other innovators within the health and wellness space who are just doing amazing things. So I feel like it's a win-win for me, for sure.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The first question I want to ask you is, I feel like chiropractic is all about creating the most value. And I feel like entrepreneurs are the best at creating exceptional value. So how do you feel that chiropractors and students can start to cultivate that value creation mindset and communicate that?
Well, I don't think creating value is just simply just for chiropractors. I think creating values is the essence of any business model in the world if you do it right. Most people think of business as like it's always about earning money. I think money is just the actual exchange of values that you're creating. So the more money you want to make is the more value you actually put out there. Money is just a measuring stick for that particular value that you give. So if you want to go into business, forget about just chiropractic. If you want to go into business and really serve the world, then it's about creating as much value to the person that you're trying to serve, or the community or the tribe that you're trying to serve, and the money will take care of itself. And that's the mindset that I think from a student's point of view, you need to grasp as soon as possible. Because if you're focused on a number that you're trying to achieve, if you're trying to focus on this target, and trust me, I've been guilty of this. I know many chiropractors are guilty of this as well. And we're just telling you through experience to say, you know what? Don't get caught up so much on the focus of how much money you can make, or how much targets you can go after, how many patients a week. Go after how much value can I give to my tribe or my community based on your experience and based on who you are as a person. No one can be like you, Noah. No one's gonna be like me, right? Because everybody's got different experiences that got to where we are. And so therefore, you just got to lean on you. If you bet on you and really just create a better version of yourself constantly, I think that's what's going to create the context of creating a massive amounts of value. And that's where the impact really starts from.
Yeah. And so in terms of really asking yourself the right questions in order to figure out what your authentic offering is and the type of value that you want to create. I mean, I feel like as an interviewer, it's all about asking the right questions. So what questions have you asked yourself in order to get to the place where you're offering the most value that's authentic?
That's a great question. And one of the things that I've just come to the realization with is that I've been chasing someone else's goals or someone else's dream for a long time now. And that just hit me just recently, maybe about 8 months ago, where I found myself in the position that the business that I wanted to create, the things that I've done, was actually partly due to someone else's expectation of myself, or what I expected what a successful business was. And then when I actually sat down and evaluated what success meant to me and what I really wanted, I realized I'm chasing someone else's dreams, and I didn't even want half the things that those business came from. I didn't even want the responsibility or the things that came along with it. And that made me go into a place where I needed to take some space. So for the last 6 to 7 months, I really had to sit back and really ask the question, what do I want? What does Laurence Tham want, right? And more importantly is the second question, which is why? Why do you want it? So I coach a lot of chiropractors, and one of the things I just recently asked a chiropractor once, and I said, what do you want in your practice? What do you want us to help you accomplish? And he said, 300 patients a week. I said, that's great. But then I paused for a second. I said, why do you actually want that? And he paused back and he's like thinking about it. And he goes, I got to be honest with you. I just picked that number out of thin air. I'm like, okay, that is perfect example where we need to take a pause and understand, why do you want it? Because we could have, like, if I didn't ask that question, we could have literally gone and spent the next 6 months or a year working and building strategies and tactics around building 300 patients a week for the simple fact of maybe we might get there, we may not get there, simply because he didn't even know what he wanted. He just threw a number, picked the number out of the hat, out of the thin air, or what, people define what success is, and then created that. All in all, that maybe it wasn't 300 a week. Maybe he actually just wanted to practice with 200 a week, being cruisy, only working 2 days a week. Who knows, right? Unless you ask those deep questions about yourselves and be aligned by it, but not being filtered by others people's expectation of what success is. That is the true answer you got to get to. Ask the question, what do you want? And more importantly, why do you want it? Without the cognitive bias of other people's expectation, what a successful practice is, or no matter what speaker or practice management says you need to do, or I don't care what anybody says, but it's more important what you say to yourself so that you actually go after it. Now, I do challenge though, when you say like, I want to see X amount, or I want this type of practice, you might want to consider having someone to voice that opinion to say, is that enough, right? Because sometimes as students, what we do is some students are going to aim high and then we just go, why, right? But some students aim low and don't even stretch themselves. So you got to know, like, you got to have the self-awareness of going, are you a person who aims high, who aims right for the middle, or do you aim low? If you're aiming low, then you need to get pushed. You need to have someone push you a little bit. I remember, I'll give you an example. I was at a CrossFit gym the other day, and I don't know what we had to do. I can't remember exactly what movement. And I picked up a 20 kilogram kettlebell. And the coach just looked at me and just gave me this look as if, come on, Laurence, like, you can do more than that. And I gave him this look, and I literally didn't even say anything. I took my head down, turned around, dropped the 20 and picked up the 24 kilo. And that's what sometimes we all need. We need someone outside of ourselves to look at ourselves. You can do more. We just need that someone to kind of guide you, to push you to that extra little bit. We all got to get into the areas of being uncomfortable, but it's making sure you do it in the right way and you know what you want at the outcome. Because here's why. The objective is the key. Like, having an objective of what you want is critical, because if you don't know having objectives, no matter how many strategies I give to you, no matter how many tactical things I can give to you, means nothing if you don't know what the objective is trying to do. Because if you're one objective, for example, if you want to have a patient for 300 patients a week practice, then I can give you a strategy and tactic for that. But if your real goal is actually only seeing 200 patients a week, only working 2 days a week, then that's a totally different strategy and tactic. And so therefore, your strategy and tactic, learning all these little skills and, what should do Facebook marketing and do all this stuff, only matters if you know what your objective is first.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up so much in that one little segment that I wanted to comment on, and
sorry to give you a chance to go. My brain just goes, and we just keep on going.
No, I love it. And the really thing that I want to focus in on is this idea of discomfort, because I really find that, like, all the high achievers, whether it's in chiropractic or whether it's like, superstars like Jeff Bezos and Sergey Brin of Google, whoever it is, they're always finding ways to push themselves. And they even have calculated it now. They go 4% above what they're used to doing. In whatever activity they're doing, they push themselves 4% more than they did the previous time that they tried that activity. So how do you push yourself, or how do you recommend students push themselves to, maybe take more risks or put themselves out there into that uncomfortable place?
Yeah, so that particular, the 4% rule is amazing, right? It comes from The Rise of Superman, the book that I read. I don't know where you got that from, but the 4% is so important to recognize that it doesn't take a lot to really elevate to the next level. What happens is that if you remember the graph, right? The graph is about skill versus, difficulty, and on an X, Y axis. And so the difficulty is on, say, the Y axis, and the skill set is on the X axis. If the difficulty is low and your skill set is high on that particular thing. So for example, just say you're able to, a difficulty to speak to 2 people and you got to do a presentation on something you already love, like say cooking. Let's just say you're a chef, you love cooking, and you got to talk to 2 people. Like you have high skill level on cooking, and you're a chef, and you only got to speak to 2 people. It's like that's nothing. So if you had to do that over and over again, it reaches boredom, right? And you won't want to do that for very long. But if the difficulty was very high and you have low skill set, right? Say you had to do a topic on I don't know, maybe how to do ballroom dancing, and you have no skills whatsoever in ballroom dancing. You have to present it to 1,000 people. All of a sudden, like that causes massive anxiety. And so when you have caused massive anxiety, then all of a sudden you also will fail as well. So there's boredom and then there's anxiety, but there's a sweet spot. The sweet spot is where your skill matches the exact same of difficulty level that you're trying to endure. However, the people, like you said, the people who are successful are the people who do 4% more, not 10%, not 20% more, because that causes massive anxiety, not 20% below because that causes boredom. What you want to do is just 4% above the difficulty you need to challenge yourself is 4% above the skill level that you're actually currently having. So if you know how to comfortably talk to 10 people, then the challenge is really about talking to maybe 15 or 20 people, right? It's just a little bit more, stretch outside your comfort zone. And it's usually in the breakthrough comes at the point of where the highest discomfort is going to be to the level of comfort of the next level you become. I remember hearing this from DeMartini. This is going back like maybe 20 years ago when I was a student. He talked about the concentric circles, and think of your comfort zone as like this circle. And as you get to the edge of that particular circle, what happens is like that's where you're most uncomfortable. What most people do is they pull back to get back into the comfort space because it's uncomfortable. But what you're supposed to do at that point is when you're uncomfortable, you actually need to push a little bit more. Not that much more, but just a little bit more. And what that does is tips you over the next edge, and you learn something from it, and you pop to the next concentric circle, which means now that baseline of what you thought was stressful, now outside looking in that circle, now it's actually your new baseline. So now that's actually the beginning of the next comfort circle. And every successful person has those concentric circles because it grows and grows and grows. But it's your responsibility as a student, chiropractor, whoever, as a business person, to push yourself to the edge of uncomfortable and then push a little bit more so that you can pop into the next level.
And that ties into what you were saying earlier about having this clear objective, because if your objective is not clear, you're not going to push through that discomfort. You're just going to retract. But if you're on point with your why and your objective, then it gives you the oomph that you need to put yourself in that uncomfortable place.
Exactly. The why drives you, right? It's never about the destination. It's about what the journey. Like, let's face it, as chiropractic students right now, I've been through it. Every chiropractor has been through it, and you are all going through it. It freaking sucks, right? The journey sucks. And you have to learn things you don't like to learn. There are certain things to test that you don't like. You always question. I guarantee you'll be writing testing going like, how does this apply to me as a chiropractor? And I can tell you as a chiropractor, it doesn't. It doesn't apply. Like whatever you're learning right now has no relevance to being a chiropractor whatsoever as you graduate. I'm sorry to tell you that. However, you got to go through the journey. You got to build through the experience. You got learning this stuff because you need to develop the experience. You need to develop the skill sets from an evaluation point of view, and just having the knowledge bank so that you can actually become a better person, a better chiropractor to draw from, and the tenacity to get through semester after semester after semester, writing those exams and writing it through when it sucks to get a piece of paper that allows you to practice. That's the why, right? You're doing it because it gives you the license to practice. That's the why that should drive most of you. So don't worry about whether I pass this chemistry exam or not, or whether I, pass this anatomy exam or not, or how well I'm going to do, whether I got 82% versus 81%. It doesn't matter so much because it's about the piece of paper. It's about your ability to register. It's not even about the piece of paper. The piece of paper just allows you to utilize your hands to impact on the people that you're going to serve in the future.
Yeah, completely. And one thing I just want to add to that is the thing that I love most about school is that it is this innovative, collaborative environment. It really is this breeding ground for exchanging ideas, for growing your philosophy, for growing your art, for understanding the science more deeply. And I can imagine, like with your experience with the Wellness Couch, that you also have had a lot of experience creating this kind of innovative, collaborative environment. Do you have any suggestions for us as students to kind of build that skill set?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's happening is right now it is about collaboration. I'm glad you brought this up, because in the school environment you actually have tribes. There's people you're attracted to, and there's people that you don't get along with. But those people that you don't get along with actually will challenge you. I remember the times when, the subluxation-based chiropractors versus the evidence-based chiropractors, the career students, and they would just bash each other up, and we go into all these fights. But those arguments were actually really helpful, because it got you to start thinking about your particular problem or your issue and your thoughts, and really helps you articulate those arguments properly. Without that, you're just making stuff up in your head, and then all of a sudden you go out there and you talk and you realize, like, this is idiotic. But at least you're doing it in front of students, so it doesn't, it's not as bad. The challenge of a collaboration is that when you're in your 20s, right, which most of you guys are when you're in your 20s, is that you have this, I think there's a coach that I used to follow. His name is Dan Sullivan, from Strategic Coach, not Dan Sullivan, the chiropractor, but it's from a Strategic Coach. And he talked about in your 20s, you have this thing called rugged individualism. And Jeff Spencer talks about this too as well. The rugged individualism, that in your 20s to 30s, you have this tenacity, and you have this infield go, I can freaking do this myself. I don't need anybody. All I need to do is just put my head down and just grind through it and go through it. And which is really important to actually have. However, you can't sustain that throughout life, and especially not in business. And chiropractic profession in this world, no matter where you live, I'm here in Australia, whether it be in America, or Europe, or Canada, Australia, the thing is that practice is freaking lonely. Okay, you just need to accept that. You need to know that before you go in there, that practice is lonely, because you right now, for those that are watching this that are in school, you guys are in a place where you have the most interaction. You actually literally live chiropractic 24/7, right? You get to talk chiropractic 24/7, and you get to debate about chiropractic. You get to talk about what's right, what's wrong, what's bad technique, all that stuff. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, but at least you're talking and living chiropractic. When you graduate, the unfortunate part is that you're dealing with patients, you're dealing with clients, which means that they have no idea, or nor do they care about chiropractic, right? When you're in school, everybody cares about chiropractic. When you're outside of school, no one cares about chiropractic unless you go to a seminar, right? Unless you go to a seminar with a whole bunch of other chiropractors, then they care. But you have this impression that everybody, because you've spent 4 years of your life thinking that everybody thinks and talks about chiropractic. Trust me, no one talks about things like chiropractic except for your friends. And really, when you're dealing with them, they don't care. They got their own lives to live. They got their own Facebook feeds and their own little Facebook ads that are dumping at them. And so practice is very lonely. So you need to have the awareness that you can't just have the rugged individualism beyond this. So one of the things that I suggest you do, the earlier you do this, is to find collaboration, find your mastermind groups, find like-minded people, because it gets very lonely. And that loneliness is that, what I mean by loneliness is the loneliness of not being able to talk to someone when things are going bad. When you can't admit to your own friends that, hey, practice is not going as well as I thought. Because oftentimes we have such egos and we have such expectations, or people have this expectation of yourself that you have to succeed at everything. So you don't want to tell the truth. So you bend the truth a little bit. You sort of say, I'm seeing X, but what you're really doing is seeing this. But no one can help you when you're lying to yourself and not being able to be openly honest to other chiropractors. And this is one of the things that I pride myself into creating groups within my coaching programs, not for the sake of, strategies and tactics, all that stuff is really important, but is really providing an environment where they can actually celebrate without feeling like they're bragging. They can literally go in the group and say, I hit my goal of X. And everybody's happy for them, not jealous of them, but they're genuinely happy for them. When things are not going well, I need your help. This is what I'm struggling with, and everybody's support. If you can find a group like that, when you can find a collaboration of people, it doesn't even always have to be about chiropractors, right? It is about collaboration of people who understand you, who's not going to judge you for your success or your failures, but they're going to be there for you as a person. That's the best way to do this, because business is never built on single collaborations of individuals, but it's about helping you find individuals that are like-minded and people who are willing to support you, and you willing to support them in their business or their ventures as well.
Yeah, completely. I think that's so important to recognize, like, the importance of that collaboration and of those groups, and of creating this kind of web or this tribe or this system to support you. And one of the ways I feel like that really helps is that instead of, working with a group that kind of tells you what to think or what to do, you're actually working with a group of people and helping develop a system of how to think and how to think through problems and how to do things differently. Because for most of us, we're kind of stuck in this rut of doing things the same way over and over again. And if you don't have other people to bounce ideas off of, you can't see another way out.
Well, also too, the collaboration is important, is because you got to also understand that you have strengths that you need to lean on. Like you have, every single one of us, or every single one of you watching this, is that you have a gift, right? And you're talented at like maybe 1 or 2%, right? And you need to lean heavily on that, which means that there's like 98% of things that you suck at. And so there's no point trying to improve on the 98%. So let's focus on your 2% and just do that, and then help collaboration from the other 98% so that they can, light up the other parts of you that you struggle with. I think that's what's really important, is that, you decided to do YouTube, right? Or even doing this on Google Hangout and record this live videos. Why? Because I don't know why you chose it, but I imagine that it felt right to you. This is the right medium for you. You wanted to do video. You wanted to, instead of just doing an audio podcast, you wanted to do a video podcast and create this environment. That's the thing that you got to lean on. Wherever this takes you, beyond chiropractic or beyond when you graduate, who knows, right? But you're learning skills that you wouldn't have learned unless you actually started something. So what I'm saying is that everyone has their genius. Focus on your genius and find and collaborate with other teammates so that you can actually utilize their strength to help you build a team that's strong.
Perfect. So in terms of students, in school, yeah, I mean, you've been in school. I mean, it's just insane. Like, we're going nonstop. Is there an opportunity within that school environment to really find your genius? Or is that something to, wait till you get out of school? Or what would be your recommendation for students in this, situation?
Yeah, I think your genius comes from development and coming from experience. Just because you're 20 years old doesn't mean that you haven't developed something. Trust me, you spent 20 years of your life doing something a certain pattern, a certain way. You might not have been aware that that's what you do, but you've done it for such a long time, and you're the only person who does it. You can literally contact your best friends, right? Maybe 10 people who know you really well, and just ask them, what do you think I'm really great at? Just ask them, and with no ego or anything like that, just ask them and they would tell you. And just say, what are the 3 words that best describe me? Or maybe what do you think I'm really great at? And you're gonna discover something about yourself. And chances are you didn't even realize you actually possess that. And when you have a thought, the thought says, there's no way that's my genius. Everybody has that. Everybody knows how to do that, right? Just say it's like, someone says to you, Noah, you're really great at just connecting with people. Like, you just seem to make friends like that. And for you, it's like, what are you talking about? Everybody knows how to make friends, right? Because that's when you know that maybe you might hit something on the head there. That may be your genius skill, because because to you, it's second nature. It's like riding a bike. It's like, what do you mean? Let's put it back in chiropractic terms. Do you remember the first time you ever felt a spinous process? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I'm sure all of us do. It's like the most going, am I ever going to be a chiropractor? I can never feel the spine. Like, it's so obvious to you now, right? In hindsight with practice and experience. But when you first palpate it, you're like, where is this thing? Where is the spine, right? And you start to question yourself. Well, that's exactly the same way. Because you have so much experience, you almost like drive a car without ever thinking about it now, right? You basically can drive, talk, and text. Not that I would recommend you do that, but the thing is that you can palpate a spine and know exactly where everything is. Whereas before, when you had no experience, you didn't. Well, that's the same thing with your genius. When you're a genius at something, it so comes so natural to you that it just becomes part of you, that you don't even realize that 99% of the people on this earth can't even do what you do naturally. Right? That's when you know that you need to lean heavily on that. If you're naturally a great networker, then lean on that when you build your practice, right? And what you do is that you can take that genius skill. Is it at 100% capacity? No, you take that and you refine it, make it better. How can you actually get it, constantly get it? It's never an ending process. But if you lean on that, right, you put all your bets onto your genius, rather than going, you know what, I really suck at maybe say physics or something, and then you go, you know what, I better go study physics and go learn more of that instead of honing in your networking skills. The physics stuff is not going to serve you, right? Or writing an article, maybe you suck at writing, right? Maybe you're terrible at writing, but you do great on video. Well, don't spend all that time learning a new skill and then taking years and years of practice to get to genius level, 10,000 hours, right, or more. Rather than, you already spent 10,000 hours on video, let's do video instead, and maybe come back to writing later. But the thing is, lean on heavily on your genius. You're going to get so much more advantage in your life, and also how you're going to refine it in the future. And then you can just tack on that when you graduate.
Perfect. So if people want to, lean on you to find and refine their genius, where can people find you? What's your website? Are you on social media? How can people, get in touch with you, especially students?
Yeah, so if you want to get in touch with me, you can go on, I'm on Facebook. It's Laurence Tham, it's spelled Laurence, and then my last name is spelled Tham. I'm there, friend me, just tell me, message me maybe to let me know where you heard me from, so that I can get some context. I'm on, the two podcasts that I do that are non-chiropractic related, but it's for the wellness. At least you get an understanding of how a chiropractor became, being in the wellness sphere. It's the Wellness Guys show, and also I do another podcast with my wife called Inside the Champion's Mind. Both of those are on the Wellness Couch Network, which is the wellnesscouch.com, so you can check it out there. Man, I'm on social. You go to driveyourpractice.com. That's mostly the most of my chiropractic stuff. Maybe be on the list. I'll send you emails on just some, inspirational stuff, things that you can think about in terms of chiropractic. It's never too young to actually work on your business plan, or working on your business mind, or even just thinking in context of chiropractic. Don't wait. Right? Don't wait until you graduate before you do something about it with regards to business. What you want to do is you want to immediately attack it now. Do something about it now, so you're thinking, let it percolate over the next couple of years, so that when you graduate, you know what to do. I just did a podcast recording for someone else recently, and just say, for example, and I hope this makes sense, just say you want to invest in property. Right? So say you go, I decided I'm going to invest in my property. Objective is to build a property investment for wealth. But then you're like, I'm going to invest it only when I find the right property. So you wait until the perfect opportunity comes, and this perfect property comes up, and then you realize you needed a deposit. You need a deposit of $50,000, but you don't have $50,000 because you've been waiting for the perfect opportunity before you get started. And then by the time you actually raise that $50,000, that opportunity is long and gone. So what the thing is right now, when you're in school, and this never stops in life, by the way, school never ends, right? Just the dramas of exams and the pressure of exams. But the thing is that what you're learning right now is you're learning to save money. You're basically learning to invest in that $50,000, and so that when you might not utilize that $50,000 when you actually collect it, but it's when the opportunity comes. When that opportunity comes, your experience now, you spent the last 2, 3, 20 years to develop, all of a sudden now you can leverage it. It goes, you know what? I'm ready to buy. I'm ready to invest. And that's what you're doing. So never stop learning and never stop trying new things. That's why I said to begin this whole entire video process, I'm so happy for someone like yourself who took a chance on yourself, didn't have to let anybody to give you a little, to say, hey, Noah, you can do this, or Noah, you should do this. You just did it. You just created something. I don't care if one person listens or thousands of people listen across, the world. It doesn't matter. You've done something now, and you should be proud of yourself, right? And then all of a sudden, now you taking the skill. So you imagine, like, by the time you graduate, right, you're that much ahead of all the colleagues and all the students and all the classmates that you're with, who then realize, oh, maybe I should start the social media channel. Well, you've already done that for 2 or 3 years, and you're that much further ahead, which means that you're paying the toll now. You're investing in yourself now. You're saving the money, and then when you can execute it, when it really counts, it's there, right? And that's what it is. It's practice before you actually get to practice.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I think it's so perfect to think of this, as an investment, right? And so, school, of course, is an investment, not only financially, but the time and energy, but also building the skills that you want to have when you get out into practice. And that's why, all the content that you're creating and, all of the things that you're doing to help kind of coach people, because it's not like, if you want to be a professional athlete, it's not like you just start being a professional athlete. You get coaching all the way through the process, and then finally you have the skills to become a professional athlete. And I feel like that's the same with the success in any realm, is that you rely on people who've been there, who've done that, who've had those experiences, who can reflect back to you what you really need in order to take the next steps.
Well, it's so funny to say, like, and it's going to date me now, right? It's going to feel like I'm like a father like telling little kids, and I apologize if it comes off this way, but back in the days, right? Back in the old days, listen, we had to rely on, when we're in school, so just to give you a clear idea, I'm 42 years old, right? This year. So which means that when I was in chiropractic college, which was, I graduated maybe 16 years ago. So back in those days, I used to listen to cassette tapes, right? Of DeMartini, the Gin Temples and stuff. And I had to listen over and over. I had to travel. I literally drove from Toronto to Atlanta, Georgia to go to Life University to go see a seminar. I went to the opening of Life West, actually, when they first opened, and I actually did a tour there with Jerry Clum. And that was when I was a student. And so when those things were happening, I literally had to travel. And now you literally don't even have to travel. From what I know, you don't even have to go to class. Like, you can actually get everything online now. And we didn't have that opportunity. So there's no excuse. All I'm saying is that it's not about better or worse than the good old days, right? It's more about you have more opportunity right now in front of you and access into this computer that you're watching this thing for, the smartphone that you're listening to. You have all the information available to you without you ever having to pay for any of it. And it's coming streaming down faster than it ever was. And you have basically all you need to do is search to figure out what resonates with you and what doesn't. But more importantly, what's important is that you actually take action on some of the things. Like, you are your own curator of information. You have no excuse to say, I don't have the time, or I don't have the resources to learn these stuff from. Trust me, people from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, didn't have the connections that we have. You literally have connections to everybody in the world. You have access to almost everybody in the world if you want to. It's your responsibility to contact them, get access to them. You don't even have to go to the seminars, but I do encourage you to go to seminars so you can meet other chiropractors. But more importantly, that you have all your library right here on your computer. Go search for it. There's enough YouTube videos. I've done a podcast, a very limited edition podcast for like 35 episodes called My Practice Rules with my friend Jamie Richards. Go listen to that. It's free. Like, there's no excuse watching these YouTube videos. There's no excuse with the technology and all the information out there that you can't be successful. The only thing is about executing on the right strategy and tactic that's meant for you. Not what someone tells you that you have to do, but more importantly, know your objective so the right strategy and tactics apply, and picking the right strategy and tactics that actually apply to that objective you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, we can't ask for anything more than really like honing in on what's right for us and making that happen. So I just like to thank my audience for allowing me to curate this content and provide that. And this has been a production of DC to B Revolution, where we think big to live large. Please consider liking this video, subscribing to this channel, comment in the comments below if it really compelled you and you want to learn more. And thank you to Dr. Laurence Tham for being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for what you do. And to the students or everybody who's watching, go out there and make an impact.